so many of our leaders, especially people of color, have cited the Reverend Jesse Jackson as their political inspiration, including former President Barack Obama.
Also included, former Congresswoman and now Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee, who is joining us live now this morning. Mayor Lee, because you consider him definitely a mentor, our condolences to you. I want to start here by asking about your long relationship with Reverend Jackson and the last time you saw him.
Reverend Jackson, oh boy, it was larger than life. My condolences and love go out to his family. His sister-in-law lives in Oakland. I saw Reverend Jackson and went to visit him this past December, the day after Christmas, at his home in Chicago. I knew his time on this earth would not be long. And I wanted to say to him how much I loved him and let him meet my two granddaughters. He officiated at the wedding of my son Craig and his wife, and we held the wedding in Mills College. And Jesse has never seen my granddaughters. So we all spent the day after Christmas with him. And he couldn't speak, but he was very aware and conscientious and conscious about what we were talking about. He squeezed their hands, he smiled, and he would mumble, "I love you, I love you." When we talked about his campaigns, and I was the state finance chair in 1988, we talked about Oakland and people he knew here. And he was very connected with everything I was saying. And I said, "Do you remember when we were at Evergreen Baptist Church and we were talking about why it's important to get people out to vote?" I said, "And the pastor," he said, "Yes, Reverend J.L. Richardson." He just blurted it out, and he had not said one word other than mumbling and shaking his head and communicating, because his mind was very sharp still. This was just this past December. Also, on a personal note, yesterday was the anniversary of my mother's passing away 11 years ago, February 16th. Reverend Jackson, again, we were close personal friends. He came out to visit my mother, and he prayed with me and my mother at Sutter Hospital just a couple of days before she passed away. And so he had that human touch. He was a great preacher also. He loved people. He was larger than life, a political leader, a warrior, an international leader also, but he was a personal friend and of so many, including myself. And it's very hard to realize that he's not here, but he left a legacy, a big legacy for so many people to embrace and to move forward with their lives, basically make life better for everybody in this country and throughout the world.
Yeah, Mayor Lee, he had a long career and a life in which he devoted to service for others. He ran for president twice. Can you talk about that impact?
That impact was so important because it was during that time that he talked about the Rainbow Coalition and why we had to work with everybody, rural people, rural white people, rural farmers, people of color, people of conscience, everyone, people who we may or may not agree with. So he formed a Rainbow Coalition, and that's how he actually paved the way for Barack Obama. But he registered during those campaigns 7 to 8 million new voters. And he taught everyone in this country what political power meant, what the power of people meant, which is our democracy, in essence, the essence of our democracy. And he also was very clear about grassroots organizing and about raising money and how to run a campaign. And because of Reverend Jesse Jackson, Barack Obama is and was. Barack never would have won his election had it not been for Reverend Jackson paving the way. And of course, Reverend Jackson attributed Shirley Chisholm as part of it. And that's how I got involved in politics, her paving the way. But he also knew that in between elections, you have to serve the people. You have to feed people. You have to fight for better education. He came here to Oakland to work with our youth. He fought for making sure that we fought for economic equity and justice. He started the Wall Street Project, in New York. He went to corporations and said, "You all need to be inclusive of everyone in terms of not only hiring but contracting, and be part of uh, bring people in who you have discriminated against in the past. And he was very effective. So he used political power and economic power for the betterment of everyone. Finally, let me just say he was an international leader. We forget that he negotiated the release of hostages. He brought back hostages from Iraq. I was at the airport and greeted him when he did that. He brought back prisoners from Cuba. I was at the airport and greeted him when he came back with prisoners and with the hostages. I was with him in South Africa when President Mandela was elected as president of South Africa. I was an observer in the campaign. I was with Reverend Jackson in so many international contexts. And he was a world leader also, and we can't forget that. He fought for peace and justice and freedom, and making the world a better place for every single person.
And now that fight is left for others, a lasting legacy nonetheless. Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee, and mentee and friend of Reverend Jackson's, thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice being with you.